Hello, physical geographers. I'm your lab TA, Kurtis, and I'm here with a quick intro video before you guys get started on lab number 6. Lab number 6 is talking about global climate systems. Climate, as Richard went over in the lecture, is just weather over time, so it's kind of a big picture view of the day-to-day weather that we see. Climatology is the study of climate. And climatic regions are just areas that have similar statistics for their weather patterns. Climate is affected by 5 major components: insolation, temperature, pressure, air masses, and precipitation. Richard went over this in lecture a lot more, and you should consult his slides and his lecture for more information on that. The first few questions of your lab are going to be over the concepts that he went over in lecture, and you can find the answers to those in your textbook. There are 5 basic climate categories, though, that I really want to go over now, because the last 3 questions of your lab, you're going to be given a few charts and asked to identify what climatic regions they came from based on what's going on in the chart. So the 5 major climate regions that we want to talk about are tropical climates, mesothermal climates, microthermal climates, polar and highland climates, and dry climates. All of these climates are based on the relationship between temperature and precipitation, based on those 5 components that we talked about just a few minutes ago. Here you can see kind of a chart based on how hot or cold an area is and what kind of precipitation they're getting, what those climates are. Of those 5 climate classifications we talked about, there's several subclasses that go under each of the 5. You can see here they're spread out across the world, and they're generally dependent on, again, those 5 components that we talked about earlier. So we're going to look at the subcategories of tropical climates. Really quick here, we can see the tropical rainforest climate. So here we're given a climograph, and so this climograph is going to be how we actually look at what's going on in a region's climate. So here we can see with the bar graph, we have annual precipitation by the month. And then with this purple line here, we can see the temperature range. So for a tropical rainforest climate, we can see here we have high levels of precipitation. And be sure that you pay attention to these values on the sides here, because they're actually going to give you the real numbers behind these graphs as you look at them. So here we can see the precipitation is pretty high, averaging between anywhere around 15 inches to 32 inches per month. And there's a little bit of fluctuation there, but we can see that the temperature and the precipitation stay pretty much average throughout the year. If we go to the next if we go to the next tropical climate, we can see tropical monsoon climates. Now here we can see there's a big difference between precipitation and temperature range. With a tropical monsoon climate, we don't see the ITCZ hitting the area all year round, but when we do see it hit in these 6 months here in the middle, we can see that we have a really high amount of precipitation, whereas in the rest of the months, we don't quite see that much precipitation. However, if we look at the temperature range, it stays pretty constant throughout the whole year. Again, make sure you pay attention to these numbers. Some of them have changed a little bit, and you can see that it might vary based on what kind of climate we're looking at. So the last of these climates for tropical climates that I want to look at is the tropical savanna. So here you can see we have a normal average precipitation around the whole year. It stays pretty much beneath that 17 inches per month. However, when the ITCZ hits this tropical savanna area, you can see the precipitation really spikes. So another tropical climate, but a little bit different subclimate than the other 2. So in questions 7 through 9 of your lab, you're going to be given 3 climographs and 3 different locations. What you're going to have to do is match those climographs to the locations given. We're going to go over one example really quick right here. I'm just going to do one climograph though. So here we have our unknown climograph in 3 different places. What we should do is we should look at our 3 different places: Florence, Italy, Savannah, Georgia, and Laramie, Wyoming, and identify where they are going to be based on this world climate map. So if we look for our first one, it's going to be Florence, Italy. We see it's over here in this Mediterranean climate. Okay, we've identified our first. Savannah, Georgia, if we look over here, is in this humid subtropical climate. If we look down here, we can see humid subtropical, moist all year, hot summer. So we know that it's a humid subtropical, hot summer climate. And finally, Laramie, Wyoming, which is up in here, is going to be a steppe climate. If we go ahead and look at our climates down here, we can see that it's a mid-latitude cold steppe climate. So again, we have all of our climates identified here based on that map that we looked at. So if we look at some examples of climographs from each of these climate areas, we can start to get an idea of maybe where our climograph comes from. The first that we're going to look at is Florence's climographs, or the areas nearby in the Mediterranean climates. If we look, we can see here that we get almost no precipitation during the summer months, and we have a pretty much varied range of temperatures. Again, make sure you pay attention to the numbers on the side because they can change based on what kind of climograph that we have going on. If we compare that to our unknown climograph, we can see they don't really match up very well. So we have a huge range of temperatures here and not much precipitation. However, the precipitation we do get happens in the summer months. So that's not lining up very well with our Mediterranean climographs. So we can go ahead and knock Florence right off our list. Let's go ahead and look at Savannah, Georgia's climate region climographs and compare them to our unknown. So here we can see in the humid subtropical hot summer climates, we have a little bit of a varied temperature range and a lot of precipitation. Not quite as much as a tropical region, but still a good amount of precipitation that we should take into account. If we compare that to our unknown climograph, we can see, yeah, we're not even pushing 5 inches of precipitation in our unknown climograph, whereas over here we can see they're pushing 15 inches during at least the summer months. So I think we can go ahead and knock Savannah, Georgia off our list. Let's look at that last climate region for Laramie, Wyoming. We have a mid-latitude cold steppe climate here. As you can see here, we have a huge, well, at least a bigger range of temperatures than we've been seeing with the others, and not much going on in the way of precipitation throughout the year. If we compare that to our climograph, we can see actually they're starting to kind of line up, because here we have a large range of temperatures from around 32 to 80 degrees, and not much going on in the way of precipitation. But I think it's safe to say that this climograph belongs to Laramie, Wyoming, because of that range of temperatures and the kind of precipitation that we're seeing, which is not much. I'd like to reiterate again that you should pay attention to the numbers on the sides of the climographs because they can change. Here you can see for precipitation, this one only goes up to 20 inches, which would not work at all for our tropical climates, but works out pretty well when you have really low levels of precipitation like you would in a mid-latitude cold steppe climate. So questions 7 through 9, you're going to do this same exercise, only identifying the regions that are given in each question. I hope this helps out, guys. Email Richard or I if you have any questions, and good luck.